In March 2011, Florida Senator Stephen Weiss rallied for support when he raised the issue of pay for performance in Senate Bill 736, also known as the Student Success Act. The legislation, which Governor Rick Scott signed into law, implements a performance pay system for teachers in the public school system in Florida. It requires at least half of the teachers' evaluations to be based on the student learning gains through testing.
Being a former teacher and being a former person that went out on strike with the teachers in 1968, and I have a daughter that teaches school in Baker County, and I have 2 grandchildren in Baker County and 2 in Hillsborough County. I'm for teachers being able to get paid as much as they possibly can because they really work hard. But I want to have good teachers who are exceptional and are highly qualified. And so that's why I'm doing this, because I think that we need an evaluation system that sorts out the teachers that are effective and highly effective so that we could reward them for good behavior.
Advocates of performance pay use the following reasons in the hopes to reform the new compensation model for teachers. Teachers must be held accountable and judged in relation to their peers. Evaluation is part of being professional. Teachers are motivated, in part, by compensation. Therefore, rewarding teachers who demonstrate excellence in the classroom will serve as an inducement for them to work harder and be more innovative. And rewarding highly effective teachers will result in them remaining in the teaching profession longer.
This summer, 2 more Michigan public school districts decided to reward teachers based on their performance. This makes a total of 4 schools using a merit pay system.
It's a radical change.
A change Blissfield Superintendent Scott Molenberg says does the most good for the most employees.
We found it to be a good fit for our staff in that we're about an even split as to those people who are off step and earning longevity increases versus those that were on a traditional step system.
Teachers are paid based on their number of years on the job that they have and the number of accumulated graduate degree or graduate work that they've done in a college classroom. Nothing else can be considered except years on the job and college degrees earned. That's it. So one teacher, different types of teachers cannot be paid any differently, and teachers who are, who might provide different value to the organization, they can't be paid any differently.
Here's how the Blissfield system works. Teachers are evaluated by 3 criteria: student growth, annual performance evaluation, and continuing education. Their scores for each determine the amount of compensation. There's also above and beyond compensation for attending and participating in extracurricular activities.
For the past 30 years, U.S. spending on education has exponentially risen, while student performance has been relatively flat. Now, we need to flip that curve. Bill Gates, as part of his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is currently working with nearly 3,000 teachers in several urban school districts to develop more reliable measures of teacher effectiveness. One reform they hope to use is pay for performance. Gates even remarked that the United States spends $50 billion a year on automatic salary increases based on teacher seniority. It's reasonable to suppose that teachers who have served longer are more effective, but the evidence says that is not true. After the first few years, seniority seems to have no effect on student achievement.
A big component to this issue is teacher support. Both the National Education Association and American Federation of Teachers support the concept of performance pay if it is fair and equal standards can be developed to base evaluation. Rob Wheeler, Director of Field Programs for Education Issues at AFT, acknowledges teachers' work does not influence student performance. There is a link between teaching and learning, Wheeler said. Let's use the correct indicators of that learning. But we still believe those large-scale assessments are not the best indicators.
Many teachers have argued against performance pay due to the issues that it encounters. One main concern is how teachers would be evaluated. Should it be based off student performance on certain subject tests? But then this brings up the problem of urban versus inner-city test scores, since urban students tend to do better than their inner-city counterparts. Also, There's a fear that teachers will just base their curriculum off that test, rather than teaching in depth. Others argue that teacher evaluations should be based off students' performances in the classroom. But, because of this, not all public schools have equal academic integrity. Some schools, for say, in the urban area, tend to be better than some schools, let's say, in the inner city. Still, others argue that a teacher's efficiency should solely be based off the supervisor's opinions of them. But still, this brings up a subjective view due to the supervisors liking their teachers or not. Others argue that a teacher should be based off the hours they put in to work plus the number of students. But then, will teachers make the class sizes too big, thus crippling the students' learning?
There's also a compelling logic to pay for performance, but there are obvious problems too. If there weren't, we would have seen it used long before the 1990s in corporate America, and we would see it used widely elsewhere. How would you measure the quality of a good teacher? The first step would be for administrators to identify what makes a good teacher. Should school administrators pay teachers for inputs to student achievement, for example, the amount of material covered or number of hours in the classroom, or for outputs, for example, test scores or graduation rates or maybe even future income?
Even though pay for performance is still in its infancy, some schools are experimenting with the concept, and we can expect to see reforms in the United States school systems.